This is the North Carolina state motif. I live in Matthews, so I'm using that today. Like you can see the end result here. There's also Charlotte and home, and then I even have South Carolina for those of you who live nearby and want to do those. It's the same basic thing, so you can use this demo for any of those motifs. So I'm going to use the Matthews one as my example. Okay, so what we want to do is mix up at least two blues. I've got another green blue here, and I've got a sky color and some shadows and things that are available. So I'm going to start by painting in, and you've got these, I'm going to show you here, you have this strip inside your Taken paint, so you can see these colors here, and I'm going to start with this kind of deeper green and follow this ridge line, and I'm leaving the white of the paper in here a little bit so that it has a horizontal shape to it, and then I'm going to take a little bit of this rusty color and sort of pop that in a few places here. I'll even take this sandy color and sort of add that in along this outside edge to represent some of that coastline. So I'm going to continue that same color that we used here on the other side of the heart. Of course, this is in that Charlotte area, but if it's North Carolina's home, then your heart may be up here in the mountains or along the coast. And now I'm going to use this different green over here and try to kind of keep it from blending too much, but it's fine if it does. And I'm going to use this, that's my sky color. I'm going to come along here deposit some of that bluish green and do the same along there. And now I'll just use some water to kind of loosen up. If you see me do this in a few of my demos, it's kind of rinse and repeat on that. And the more you practice, the better you'll get at doing that. And we'll come in here and do the same thing. So if you let it dry a little bit, when you add that clear water to it, it'll get that nice little bleed there. And I'll come in here and I've taught this class to several people and they all do it a little bit different, and some of them I really like better than my example, so I may have that in my students' pictures on my Instagram if you want to look at some different ideas on how to do this. And you can really make it more complicated than I do. I often do them very simplistic so that anybody can basically get the basics and follow along. And I'm going to take this color that I used here and kind of put that in this area. You just have to be careful where your lines are so you get that nice definition. I'm going to come along here and kind of redefine that line since I went over it. And let me all right, and I'll probably add a little bit of this rust. some interest and kind of start to define some of those lines. And of course you can change your colorway for different times of year, which would be fun. And once that's dry, I used Foxberry. If you've got a red in your box, you can use a red for your heart if you want. Oh, right outside the lines. No worry. I'll just pull that back. If you aren't careful and that's wet, then you'll... Because I went outside the line there, that water can kind of travel across my marker line, but it seems to be okay. So I want to get that cleared off pretty well. I've got my sky color here, which is this color, very watered down, and you can either do wet paper here and then add that. I'll show you. You can clear your brush and kind of do wet on wet technique for the sky. That way you can kind of, oh, it's pretty wet. Just deposit that. And I kind of went up into these letters just a little. I don't suggest going all the way up in there. And if you want it to look more like clouds, you can always take some of that water and pigment away with a paper towel. And then I decided to kind of put a little bit, just a tiny bit of yellow. A little bit of light hibiscus in here. And maybe on this one, I'll do a tiny bit of, wow, I'm really going to town on this red today. That was pretty wet, so that's why that happened. But I want to like my outcome, so I'm just kind of working with it a little bit. So now I can go back in very carefully across the top of these rolling mountains and add a little more definition if I like. Got that blue ridge. Just don't want to get into that heart because it'll start to go everywhere. And then can clear my brush and just kind of tap a clear brush over these white areas so they're not as stark, but they're still there. Missed the sky over in that area here. Ready to be framed.